Well, hello there, you scrub lords, and welcome back to the channel. I realize it's been a little while, and I know I said in my last Unicorn review that I was going to be explaining as to why I have been absent the last month and a half or so, and this is that video. So I guess, first of all, we'll just jump right into it. So when I got back from Gamescom in Cologne, Germany in late August, I had a bit of an interesting trip back. I got delayed and I actually missed my first classes on that Monday, the week after Gamescom. You see, I was on a bit of a time crunch because my classes, as you can imagine, started right after Gamescom had ended. As a result, I had to deal with that for a little while as I was dropped from the class, so I had to re-add it and a bunch of other renegotiate my entry into those classes. So that was the first thing. So once I got myself settled into school, I went back to work, and my boss came to me and told me, "Hey, Miles, we want to give you a few more hours." And I was like, "Okay, well, how much do you have in mind?" They gave me about 4 times as many hours as I had been working previously. I don't know if that was just to make up for the fact that I had been gone, or if they legitimately just needed me in those positions, but yes, the amount of hours that I was working multiplied by about 4 times what I used to. So that didn't help either. In addition to that, after Gamescom, I realized I was actually pretty burnt out of War Thunder. From the time that Gamescom started on Monday to the time that I left, it was basically nothing but War Thunder 150% of the time. And before I had gone, I hadn't been playing all that much War Thunder, and I had realized while I was there that, you know what, I needed a break. Here's the thing, I've been playing War Thunder for about 6 years now. I've been playing the game since late 2012, almost non-stop. There have been a couple of 6-month breaks here and there, but that was before I started doing YouTube. So the last time I took a break, for like a long-term break from the game of any real duration, was 2015. Since then, I have been playing the game almost non-stop. And I don't care how much you enjoy any game, after a while, you kind of need a bit of a break. And so it was time for that. And so I took at least a month off, and I started to work my way back into the game right before 1.83 came out, and decided, you know what, I've been putting off on this Unicorn review thing for quite some time, so I finally sat down and I knocked out the XM1 Unicorn review in a weekend. About 24 hours of work involved putting that together, so it was it took some time, but I think the results were worth it, and as a result, I guess I'm somewhat back in the business of making videos for War Thunder again. So that's pretty much why I've been gone. I was burnt out, I really needed a break, I had been working a lot more, and on top of that, I'm in school. So, the work and school, unfortunately, have to take priority. I just don't really have a choice in that matter. And I'm sure you guys understand that. I don't need to explain all that to you. Also, last week, we had the 1.83 dev server, and a lot of you were wondering if I was going to stream it or not, or what happened, why I didn't stream it. Well, for whatever reason, that build of the dev server really did not like my computer. Every time I tried to start the dev server up, it would give me memory errors and would crash back to desktop, so I was unable to access the dev server during its duration. It happens, it's a dev server, we don't exactly expect it to be stable, so it wasn't a big deal. Now that I've gotten those two things out of the way, I want to talk a little bit about 1.83 Masters of the Sea and the opening of naval forces into open beta for everybody to play. And yes, if you are not aware, naval forces are now available for everybody to play. So you've got 3 nations. You've got the US, you've got Germany, and you've got Russia. The Royal Navy is in closed beta test, so if you want to get access to it, you either have to grind through the tester stars, or you have to pick up one of the packages, either the Farm ILD or the HMCAS Haida. And both of them, from what I can tell, are pretty decent ships. There's nothing particularly wrong with them. Farm ILD is a couple of 57mm cannons, which can be devastating against PT boats, even though they only fire high explosive. And then you've got the HMCAS Haida, which is a tribal class destroyer, and there's nothing wrong with that either. It's a solid destroyer. In my experience so far, the best two nations in the game right now, as far as just general tech trees are concerned, is Germany and Russia. And I know that's going to surprise quite a few people, but hear me out here. The Germans really don't have a bad tier at all. Like, all of their tiers of vehicles, all four of them, are fantastic. Like, there's not really a bad place for the Germans. There's always vehicles that you can rely on to get you through the tiers, and it's a pretty enjoyable and pleasant experience. The Russians are not quite as good as the Germans, I think, but they're better in other respects. Like, for example, the Russian destroyers are really bad. The Frunz isn't terrible, but it's not as good as the higher tier destroyers. And the Project 7U, while it is a technical modern destroyer, the magazine for that thing on the bow and the stern is above the waterline, so it's very easy to hit, and as a result, the Project 7U dies very, very quickly. And it just doesn't have the durability that some of the other destroyers do to make its larger caliber guns count, at least in my experience. So, and if you're looking at buying any of the premium destroyers, I would say avoid the Project 7U for now. It's not a terrible destroyer. The thing is, compared to everything else out there, it's definitely the worst of the bunch. So, however, that being said, the Russians have some of the best PT boats of all of the nations. Mainly due to the fact that a lot of their PT boats tend to have very, very large caliber guns for their tiers. So, I mean, even at Tier 2, one of the very first vehicles you get at Tier 2 is the Project 1124, and the 1124 is just a river monitor with a couple of T-34 1941 turrets with 76mm F-34 cannons. And while they can fire AP and high explosive, the high explosive at that tier is just, it's more than enough to pretty much deal with anything you're going to face. As far as the other premiums are concerned that they've released for all three nations, I would say the best one currently is the MBK Project 186. And, again, for the Russians. And basically what this thing is, it's a river monitor with a couple of 85mm guns on it, a couple of dual 12.7mm turrets, and a 37mm anti-aircraft gun mounted on the back of it. And, like I said, the high explosive from that thing is devastating, and it gets a PT spawn, so despite the fact that it's quite slow, it can still actually get to the battle. It's not slow enough to the point where it's never going to reach the battlefield. However, the German one it does suffer from this problem. The problem with the Type M Class 1943, and the reason why I would not recommend it, is because it is slow and it receives a destroyer spawn. It does not get a PT boat spawn. As a result, you're going to spend most of your game driving to the battle rather than actually taking part in it, and if any destroyers see you coming, which is pretty easy to do, the 1943M does not have the firepower to go toe-to-toe with destroyers. You can kill them. I'm not saying you can't. The 105mm guns, if you manage to get a lucky hit on the magazine, can destroy whatever you're facing. However, you've only got 105mm guns, and there's only two of them. One on the bow, one on the stern. And that creates a big, big problem. So not only are you not getting any damage done, but you're also spending a majority of your game just traveling to the battle. And oftentimes you spend all this time traveling to the battle only to just get blown up by a destroyer that you can't really do anything about. So the 1943M is a no-go, in my book. Unless they change the spawn to a PT boat spawn, I cannot recommend that ship for use in naval forces right now. It is a waste of your money. That being said, the American one, the American PT boat, is not bad. It's kind of in between the Project 186 and the 1943. It is nowhere near as good, in my opinion, as the Project 186, but it does have significant firepower on it, and what makes the American PT boat premium different from other PT boats is that it has what's called the Thunderbolt turret. on the back of the PT boat. The Thunderbolt turret is a set of 4 20mm Oerlikon autocannons mounted in a sheet metal housing on the back, a fully rotating sheet metal housing on the back. So you effectively get a Whirlwind turret on an American ship, or on an American PT boat, which is pretty cool. Now, granted, the problem with it is because it's on the back of the vessel, you often have to go full broadside and give the enemy the largest target possible to shoot at. And American PT boats are a lot of things, but they are definitely not durable. The Project 186, on the other hand, is quite durable because it actually has armor. It has 20mm of rolled homogeneous steel armor on the sides around around what I guess I'll call the Citadel. In this case, the central part of the ship. The front and rear sections are not armored at all, and that's where you're going to take majority of your damage. But your turrets are somewhat well armored. Your bridge is somewhat well armored, and it means that stray machine gun bullets aren't really going to knock you out. So you need some serious armor piercing in order to actually get through the Project 186, especially if you're angled. That your armor is angleable and it goes up significantly in thickness. Now, there's also a tech tree version of the Project 186, and instead of having the Russian naval specific 85mm gun turrets, it actually has T-34 85mm turrets with 90mm of armor on those. So with those things, your turrets are basically protected from the front from pretty much any autocannon fire you're going to face, which means that even the tech tree version is actually technically better than the premium version, which is, I think, a cool balancing feature. Now, I know a lot of people are going to be looking at this footage in the background and going, Miles, stop seal clubbing people at low tiers. Here's the thing. I'm actually in the higher tiers of the game right now, and people seem to still insist on bringing reserve boats into these higher tier matches. So it's not just me deliberately going after these people and trying to seal club them, although Higgins boats are my mortal enemy and I have zero mercy for them. It's not the fact that I'm deliberately trying to go after these people and seal club them, it's that people keep bringing these damn things into higher tier matches. Stop doing it, it's not going to end well for you. If you want to have success with those reserve boats, keep them at the reserve tier, that's what they're for. And I suspect that these people are just bringing these things in right at the start because they think they're going to get an easy cap. Well, fact of the matter is that at higher tiers, people tend to bring higher tier vehicles, so it doesn't tend to end very well. And I've actually got a game in a ship called the Project 159, which is, by the way, probably one of the most terrifying ships a PT boat could ever come across. That demonstrates just how bad this seal clubbing can get if people insist on bringing higher tier or reserve tier vessels into higher tier games. You could still technically sink up to a light cruiser. I mean, you could sink literally any ship in the game with most of these reserve ships, but that's because they have torpedoes. And torpedoes, while they are absolutely devastating, and pretty much, I think with the current damage model that we have as a result of a change, they can guaranteed one-shot anything in the game. You still have to get pretty darn close or be pretty darn good with your leading in order to hit somebody with a torpedo. So, while torpedoes are absolutely devastating weapons, they aren't the one-hit. They aren't your primary weapons, or they shouldn't be your primary weapons. And if you're having to face vessels that your weapons cannot deal with, then you seriously start to need to reconsider what types of vessels you're driving, or the reasons you're driving them. So again, this isn't me deliberately going after these people. This is people deliberately bringing these things into higher tier battles and suffering the consequences for it. If you bring a reserve tier tank or a reserve tier aircraft into a jet game, like, it's good luck. I mean, you can kill something occasionally, but jets are going to run rings around you, literally. Or at least, I guess, vertical rings around you. But you get my point. So overall, short of people insisting on bringing, like, Higgins boats and LSs into top-tier games in naval forces, I think that naval forces is definitely worth your time. I am having a hell of a lot of fun. In fact, I haven't even touched my German helicopters yet. I test flew a couple of them, And I've spent all the rest of my time playing Naval Forces. Like, I'm a tanker at heart. I love my tanks. But holy crap, this game mode is fun. Like, and ultimately, that's the reason I play nowadays. I don't necessarily play to get the best vehicles possible. I play for fun. And Naval Forces is, by all definitions, hilariously fun. So, thank you guys for watching. This has been Many Miles Away. Keep your tracks checked, keep your binders in place, keep it around on the tube. And one last thing before I go, for those of you patrons who have signed up, I really appreciate your support. Your names, if you're $3 and up, are going to be listed at the end of the video. So thank you guys, and if you are interested in checking out a potential reward like that, go and check out my Patreon. I have restructured the rewards recently, and if you are a current patron but are not in one of the current categories, I highly suggest that you contact me and we will see what we can do to fix that. Alright, have a good day everyone, and enjoy your weekend.